welcome back to another episode with me, the one and only Sara Razi. In this episode, we will be talking about the largest crime bill written in the history of the United States of America, also known as the 1994 Crime Bill, written by the one and only Joe Biden. Before I begin, I know a lot of people questioned my last video and my opinions towards officers. Unlike many leftists, I feel as if not all cops are evil or bad. Some are really kind and do a lot of good things for our country and our towns to keep us safe. Therefore, we have to remember that it is the system and the socialization from our birth which makes us into who we are and how we act as humans today. The 1994 crime bill structured the way of our justice system that we have today in the United States. Due to the activism of Black Lives Matter, many Americans, including myself, wondered, why is it that the justice system is so prejudiced towards minorities? What caused our officers, whose duty is to keep us safe, to become prejudiced and less tolerant of minorities and people of color? With further ado, let's begin discussing the crime bill. We're going to take a blast to the past to discuss Reagan's presidency during the 1980s. During his presidency, there has been a tremendous amount of street crime, deviance, and drug crime circling the cities. As a result, President Reagan passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. It is the first major law passed in the U.S. It provided mandatory minimums and increased the maximum sentences for drug dealers and expanded deportation and increased crack sanctions. Then in 1991, Joe Biden wrote the crime bill, which was passed in 1994, and it was known as the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. It provided many things such as 100,000 new officers, $19.7 billion were spent in prison funding, $6.1 billion were spent in juvenile boot camps. It also eliminated the Pell Grant, which discontinued inmates from receiving a secondary education. It expanded the federal death penalty to 60 new crimes, such as hate crimes, sex crimes, and gang crimes. State and local governments had to rely on massive amounts of federal funding to build more jails and prisons and to pass so-called truth in sentencing laws and other measures that increased the number and length of prison sentences while reducing the possibility of early release for those who are incarcerated. This crime law led to more prison sentences, more prison cells, aggressive policing, which targeted and hurt Black and brown communities who are most likely to be incarcerated. In his 2020 campaign, Biden claimed mass incarceration is not true at all. It restored American cities. The 94 crime law was certainly meant to increase incarceration in an attempt to crack down on crime, but it hasn't done much in that area. And while the law had many provisions that are now considered highly controversial, some portions, including the Violence Against Women Act and the assault weapons ban, are fairly popular among Democrats. So basically, Biden helps fuel the same exact policies that criminal justice reform is trying to reverse today. Therefore, it serves as proof as why Joe Biden can't be trusted to do the right thing on criminal justice issues as president. Now, here are more reasons why Biden can't be trusted. He stated, I didn't support more money to build state prisons. I was against it. We should be building rehab centers and not prisons. We'll talk about the pot calling the kettle black. In fact, Biden did support for $6 billion in funding for state prison construction. This funding came with truth in sentencing laws that require people convicted of crimes to serve 85% of their sentences. This is one of the measures that led to the already increasing incarceration. According to experts from Brenna Center in 2016, they stated, although incarceration was already increasing before the crime bill, these provisions helped increase mass incarceration, which targeted people of color communities and created the stereotype that Blacks and Latinos are usually drug dealers and they rob stores. So therefore, this bill extended the death penalty to 60 new crimes, stiffened new sentences, offered states federal coverage to build prisons, banned a range of assault weapons, which goes against our Second Amendment rights, helped to waive mass incarceration of minorities, and devastated people of color communities by resulting in the U.S. accounting for 25% of the world's prison population. That is a big percent. Don't take that for granted, ladies and gentlemen. It also created stereotypes of Black and Latino communities and subjected them towards racism and to be targeted by ICE and police officers. Once again, the crime bill in 1994 was an act against the people of color and their communities instead of ending crime on the streets. Biden has been seen as a racist and a segregationist in his past and now in the present. Biden now has been seen for his lack of reaction towards the BLM movement, which can deter the Black vote away from him. And to prove my point even further, may I present to you Exhibit A.
Streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale.
This video proves his racism, and he believes black people and people of color cannot become socialized, and refers to them as wild and to the contribution of a racial jungle. And now may I present to you Exhibit B.
That instead of standing there and teaching a cop who's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart is a very different thing. There's a lot of different things that can change.
And now to my Joe Biden supporters who are watching this, is this how you think protesters should be handled? To be shot in the leg while exercising their First Amendment rights? I think not. And now we'll be back with my opinions after a quick ad break. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my show. If you haven't already, check out Darren from Fast Times with Darren. He's another podcaster on our podcast. He's a libertarian socialist, and usually when people hear about a libertarian, they get scared and scream, "Ah, my roads!" Because people are actually scared of us taking away your roads, and that's only true if you steal our lunch money. Anyways, Darren's a pretty chill guy, and if you're a socialist or a leftist, feel free to tune into his podcast. And now, back to the fun opinions. Personally, I believe this bill gave way too much power to the government. It also puts too many people in jail. It arrests people for carrying Advil or any other type of drug. It spreads racism and stereotypical differences throughout our country and uses way too much of an amount of federal funding to create prisons and correctional facilities for convicts. The biggest impact of this bill is not only the amount of money going through funding, but the impact it has on brown and like black communities. Another issue is police brutality that has been surrounding our country for many years. As of lately, there has been a lot of police brutality when it comes to protesting and peaceful protests. Following the recent events of the murders of innocent black people such as George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, God bless their souls, by hate crimes committed by police officers, and people are taking these acts as racism. Yes, it has to do with racism, but the bigger issue that we are facing here is police brutality. However, whether we like it or not, we live in a media influenced world in which information is shared in video clips throughout social media. Police officers do many things that we take for granted every day in our lives, such as they take an active role on community oriented policing on campus, they help keep our campuses safe, they catch drunk drivers and like assign them a DUI. They also command emergency personnel and accident emergencies and disasters, and they respond to calls for police service. Therefore, with the recent trend of abolishing the police going around, we are taking our officers for granted. I understand that we are all angry, but abolishing the police is not a matter we should mess with. Instead, the way around this is to defund the police, revoke the 1994 crime bill, and to reform our justice system in order to make a better America. In conclusion, thanks for tuning in, you guys. I hope you learned something from this episode, and make sure to check out the link below, which can take you to two things, such as the GoFundMe provided by Breonna Taylor's family and my latest episode, in case if you haven't seen it yet. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to check us out on all of our other platforms such as Facebook and Instagram at Probably Political, and our Twitter at ProbPolitical. So with further ado, this is Politically Razi signing off. Peace out.